There are moments in life when the veil thins, not in thunder or fanfare, but in the quiet flicker of something forgotten. You might be washing your face in the morning mirror or lost in thought at a red light, and suddenly your vision feels different. The world doesn't blur exactly, but it pulses, shimmers, flickers ever so slightly at the edges. Perhaps you've chalked it up to fatigue, too much screen time, or a passing migraine. But what if it's not just your eyes deceiving you, but reality itself reconfiguring around a deeper truth? This is the symptom almost no one talks about during spiritual awakening, and yet it's one of the most telling. A subtle shift in perception, beginning quite literally with the eye. Not the third eye, that symbol has become too stylized, too expected, but the actual eyes in your head, those twin spheres of biological mystery that sit like mirrors at the edge of the soul. There's something happening there. And if you overlook it, you may miss one of the simplest, yet most profound signs that your consciousness is no longer confined to the mundane lattice of consensus reality. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you'll come to understand may shift how you interpret your own awakening journey forever. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel so you never miss another decoding of reality's hidden layers. Let us begin. The eye, in many ancient traditions, is more than just a sensory organ. It is a gateway, a threshold, a riddle folded into flesh. The Egyptians deified it. The mystics painted it. The modern world, ironically, blinded by information, has forgotten what the ancient world knew instinctively, that the eye is the last to lie when the soul begins to remember. But here lies the paradox. The eyes are also the first to distort when the soul resists its own becoming. During spiritual awakening, perception changes before belief does. People think awakening starts with a grand realization, a eureka moment of spiritual clarity. But often it begins in more subtle, awkward, and misunderstood ways. It begins with symptoms, side effects, metaphysical glitches in the system. The number one overlooked symptom: your vision itself begins to betray the ordinary. Have you noticed it? A halo of light around things that shouldn't glow. A fleeting static, a shimmer in your peripheral. Perhaps your vision has grown more sensitive to light, or certain colors begin to feel charged with emotional resonance. These anomalies, if reported to a doctor, might earn you a neurological workup. But to those walking the razor's edge of awakening, these are not bugs in the machine. They are signals from the other side of perception. The eye is often treated like a camera, capturing the outside world. But in truth, it is more like a lens that reflects the inner state. What you see is not just out there, it's encoded, filtered, interpreted through layers of belief, trauma, memory, and soul pattern. And during awakening, when the soul starts peeling back those layers like worn wallpaper, your perception, including your literal eyesight, starts to adjust. Not everyone experiences this the same way. Some may report a temporary blurring of sight when entering deep states of meditation or emotional breakthrough. Others find their night vision sharpens unexpectedly. Still others notice odd patterns, like a grid overlaying their surroundings when they close their eyes, or geometric forms dancing in the space between thoughts. All of this, the dismissed, the ignored, the pathologized, may point to one simple reality. Your consciousness is learning to see again, not just with the eyes, but through them. If the eyes are the lamp of the body, then during awakening, the lamp is being rewired, flickering not because it's failing, but because a new energy is coming online. And like any rewiring, the signals are scrambled at first. Your focus may drift. Light may refract strangely. You might blink, rub your eyes, and feel like the world is tilting just a bit. This isn't madness. It's the vision of a being transitioning from one octave of awareness to another. But why does it matter? Because we live in a culture that pathologizes mystery. If your eye does not behave as expected, you're told it's a defect, a symptom, a malfunction, Rarely is it treated as communication. As a metaphysical language, your soul is trying to teach your nervous system. And so many seekers dismiss this visual recalibration. They think, I must just be tired, or maybe I need glasses, when in truth, the cosmos is writing in photons across your retina. You are waking up, and the veil is no longer airtight. We are taught to ignore the subtle. But awakening, my friend, is nothing but the mastery of the subtle. And the eyes, sensitive, luminous, ever vigilant, are the first organs to register the alchemical fire of awakening. You might call it a symptom, but it is really a signal, one of the clearest, if only we were trained to notice it. Think of your eyesight during awakening as the shifting lens of a dreamer realizing they are in a dream. The dream doesn't vanish. The dream becomes lucid. The colors might sharpen. The shadows might move with unusual grace. You are still in the same body, the same room, the same timeline, but nothing is quite as static as it was before, and your eyes know it. They have always known it, but only now are they beginning to show you what they've always seen in secret. We will soon dive into the core principles behind this strange and subtle transformation of sight, how the spiritual and neurological begin to overlap, and what deeper truths lie behind this overlooked eye symptom. But for now, I want you to hold this truth like a burning ember. Your eyes are not betraying you. They are initiating you. To understand why the eye begins to shift during spiritual awakening, we must move beyond the crude machinery of physiology and gaze deeper into the mystical mechanics of perception. Awakening is not a concept, it is a force, a field, a pressure applied to the structure of illusion. And as that pressure mounts, the first thing to warp is not the world itself, but how we see it. Because vision, as it turns out, is not passive. It is a creative act, one that involves both the soul and the nervous system co-authoring what we call reality. At the center of this phenomenon lies a sacred tension between illusion and insight. The unawakened eye sees a flat world, a consistent loop of pattern and repetition. The sky is blue, the tree is green, the face in the mirror is familiar. But this so-called consistency is not a sign of truth. It is a spell cast by social consensus, by time, by memory, by everything that says, this is the world, and this is what it means. Awakening breaks the spell, not in a dramatic shattering, but in a series of subtle, optical fractures. The world still stands, but light refracts oddly around it. The familiar becomes uncanny. Your eyes pick up what your mind refuses to decode, a shimmer of something just outside the edge of naming. The colors don't change, but they feel alive. That is the beginning of the veil lifting. And so we arrive at a crucial understanding, the eye symptom that is so easily overlooked. Blurriness, pressure behind the eyes, flickering light, or hypersensitivity to color is not a side effect. It is an initiation cue. Your spiritual operating system is being rewritten, and the first update begins with what you can no longer unsee. Consider this: your brain receives light not just through the lens of the eye, but also through the lens of expectation. You don't see what is, you see what you've been conditioned to look for. In awakening, this loop is interrupted. The script breaks, the eyes begin to seek rather than merely receive. What you thought was static reality starts to shimmer with potential, like a mirage on the edge of recognition. This shift causes friction, both spiritual and physical. For some, this manifests as headaches centered around the eyes or brow. For others, an emotional stirring, looking into a stranger's eyes and seeing something ancient and known. Even the act of gazing into your own reflection can become an ordeal, because the eyes looking back are no longer who you thought you were. There is a timeless teaching hidden here. To see is not just to observe, it is to interact with the sacred architecture of form. The eye is not a camera, it is an antenna. And during spiritual awakening, that antenna begins picking up frequencies long ignored. This is why so many people report seeing auras, light codes, or unexplainable flashes. The nervous system cannot process what the soul suddenly perceives, and so it relays the message in light, distorted, dazzling, disorienting. But the message is always the same. Look deeper. Look again. What you see is only a fraction of what is present. Another theme beneath this symptom is energetic overload. As the chakra system begins to awaken, particularly the third eye and crown, more light, literal and metaphorical, flows into the body. The physical eyes, not designed for this kind of influx, become overstimulated. This can result in light sensitivity, pain around the orbital bones, or a sudden inability to tolerate artificial lighting. Your system is saying, "This light is not real." Look for the source light. Seek the organic radiance of spirit. In other words, the eye symptom is an echo of inner dissonance, a conflict between how we were taught to perceive and how we are now being asked to perceive. And the irony is profound. We often look for signs of awakening in big, dramatic changes, but ignore the smallest flicker on the edge of our vision, the very place the soul often begins whispering first. Let's not forget that in many ancient mystical traditions, vision was sacred. Not just mystical vision, but the act of sight itself. The seers of old knew that the eye was not merely an organ of biology, but a mirror of soul state. If your eye was clear, your body would be full of light. This wasn't metaphor, it was spiritual optics. That same principle is still true, but today, instead of honoring it, we label it optical migraine. We name it photophobia. We prescribe drops or blue light filters and assume the problem is external. What if instead the eye discomfort is an alarm clock sounding deep in your field, telling you that your inner lens is cracking open to a deeper light? We live in an age where the artificial has saturated the real. LED screens, filtered images, endless streams of surface reality, all of it dulls our original sight. But the soul has its own rebellion. It begins sending wake-up signals through your perception. You may find it harder to stare at screens, easier to stare at trees. You may notice your eyes watering without emotion, or that you instinctively close your eyes when someone lies to you. These are not accidents, they are recalibrations. They are instructions from a higher frequency. And so, we come full circle. The symptom you've been overlooking, this flickering, this blurring, this strange refraction of the real, is not a malfunction. It is an invitation to remember that seeing is sacred, and your eyes are not just tools of observation, but instruments of revelation. We will now enter the next layer of the journey, through symbolic stories and deeper allegorical insight, exploring what the eyes truly represent in the language of the soul. Imagine a young child wandering through a forest just before dusk, following the light as it dances in shards across leaves and water. Her eyes widen, not in fear, but in awe. The shadows seem to breathe. The trees hum with knowing. Her vision is no longer just about sight, it has become communion. She is not merely observing the world, she is inside it, wrapped in its pulse, its mystery, its golden silence. This is what the ancients meant when they said that the eyes are the bridge between worlds. You see, the eye has always held a symbolic seat in mythologies, spiritual traditions, and visionary literature. Not because it is biologically complex, though it is, but because it is spiritually potent. In nearly every sacred story, the eye represents not just perception, but awakening itself. Let us walk into one such myth. There was once a tribe who believed that each human was born with 3 eyes, 2 that opened at birth, and 1 that remained shut until the soul was ready. The first 2 saw the world's surface, faces, forms, patterns. But the third eye saw the source beneath the pattern. Not everyone's third eye opened. It would begin to twitch, to pulse, to ache. And sometimes, when the time was near, the physical eyes would change too. They'd report strange lights, luminous outlines, shifts in clarity. Most would ignore it. Only a few would recognize it for what it was, the soul stretching its wings through vision. In this tale, the overlooked eye symptom was never considered a flaw. It was seen as a sacred signal, a rite of passage. They called it the mirror tremble, that moment when the eyes begin to reflect not just light, but truth. This allegory contains within it a deeper truth. The soul, when awakening, does not speak in words. It speaks in shifts. It speaks in sensations. It speaks in light. And it often begins with the eyes, not because they are fragile, but because they are honest. Your eyes cannot pretend. When your soul sees something it once denied, your vision falters for a moment as the new frequency attempts to stabilize. Let's move now to another parable, one buried in the esoteric scrolls of the desert mystics. A man asked the oracle how he might truly see. She gave him no answer, but handed him a mirror. He stared, confused. "This shows only myself," he said. She replied, "Then see yourself differently, and the world will follow." He stared again, and this time the mirror melted. His face became the stars, the sea, the fire, the void. He dropped the mirror. His eyes burned. But from that day forward, everything he looked upon spoke back with the voice of God. This fable may feel poetic, but its meaning is precise. True seeing does not begin with the outer world. It begins with how you view yourself. And as that inner image changes, no longer built from shame, programming, and false identity, your outer vision adjusts to reflect it. The eye symptoms during awakening are not random. They are a symptom of identity collapse. The more illusion you shed, the more your vision must recalibrate. In truth, it is not your eyes that are malfunctioning. It is the mask falling away. You may now begin to understand why many who undergo deep spiritual awakenings report temporary discomfort with artificial light. It is not merely biological, it is symbolic. The soul begins rejecting false light, not because it hates technology or electricity, but because it yearns for authentic radiance. Sunlight feels more alive, candlelight feels more honest. Even darkness becomes more nourishing than the sterile glow of a screen. There is a Sufi story that explains it best. It tells of a traveler who goes blind in the desert. He is distraught, thinking he will never find his way. But an old woman tells him, "You have not gone blind. Your real eyes are just beginning to open. Walk with your heart now, and what you need to see will appear." In the desert of awakening, many feel this blindness. But it is not darkness. It is the soul stripping away the false images, layer by layer, until what is left is clear seeing. And that clarity begins with disorientation. Your vision must falter before it can be reborn. And here, perhaps, lies the greatest symbolism of all. In ancient spiritual traditions, loss of vision always precedes revelation. The blind prophet Tiresias. The Apostle Paul struck blind on the road to Damascus. Odin giving up an eye at the well of Mimir in exchange for wisdom. In each case, physical vision dims so that inner sight may ignite. This is not coincidence. It is a cosmic rhythm. You may feel confused when your eyes begin to betray the clarity you once took for granted. But in the grand narrative of awakening, that moment of visual instability is not failure. It is prophecy. It is the soul knocking on the door of your retina, saying, "Are you ready to see not the world, but the truth beneath it?" So the flickers, the shadows, the distortions, they are not your enemy. They are sacred metaphors incarnated through biology. The eye becomes the battlefield of old beliefs and new consciousness. You are not just seeing through eyes. You are relearning how to see through the soul. And perhaps that is why the symptom is so often overlooked. Because it is so literal, so mundane, so easy to dismiss. But if we truly understood what it meant, we would treat each eye flicker not as a nuisance, but as a messenger. The world you see is not the world that is. It is a mask, a veil, a curtain of habit. When your eyes begin to betray that mask, they are not failing you. They are finally telling the truth. So what does it mean to live in a world where your eyes begin to speak a new language? Where light trembles with meaning, where colors pierce with emotional resonance, and where shadows seem not merely dark but pregnant with symbols? How do we navigate the everyday when our perception itself has been reconfigured by an invisible hand? Spiritual awakening is often romanticized as a rapture, a flood of bliss, but more often it's disorienting. It leaves you trying to do normal things, drive a car, read an email, hold a conversation, while your vision flickers like an old film reel and you feel a phantom pressure behind your eyes as if some ancient eye is opening inside your skull. To walk through that kind of shift and still live a grounded, functioning life, that takes practice. That takes trust. First, understand this. You are not broken. There is nothing wrong with your eyes. Yes, have your vision checked if it helps you feel grounded, but understand that no optometrist will diagnose perception decoding. You are experiencing the frontier between two realities, the encoded, filtered world of the ego and the unfiltered, vibrant frequency of truth. And that gap, between how you used to see and how you are beginning to see, is where the real work lies. You'll need to start choosing what you allow into your field. Your sensitivity to light is not just a physical issue, it is a spiritual boundary forming. You may begin to feel physically uneasy in certain environments. Big box stores, offices with fluorescent lighting, crowded digital feeds filled with artificial faces and neon overlays. That's not weakness, that's discernment. Your soul is curating your input, not to isolate you, but to preserve the clarity of your emerging vision. Spend more time with organic forms, trees, skies, water, fire, faces without pretense. These elements will not strain your sight, they will nourish it. They vibrate closer to truth. You might find yourself weeping in the presence of certain landscapes, animals, or strangers. That too is your eyes adjusting to emotional resonance as a visual field. You are beginning to feel what you see, and see what you feel. Another challenge will arise in the form of self-doubt. You'll wonder, am I making this up? Is this symptom in my head? The answer is yes and no. You are not imagining it, but it is inside you. Not in the sense of fabrication, but in the sense that you are the instrument through which truth is now being tuned. Your body is recalibrating to a deeper frequency of light, and your perception is the dial. Of course you feel off balance. Of course your vision falters sometimes. You are evolving in real time. So how do you function? How? You breathe. You slow down. You close your eyes often, not to retreat, but to re-anchor. You learn to soften your gaze, to let light flow into your eyes like water instead of shooting out like lasers of expectation. You walk through the world as though everything might contain a message, and sometimes it will. Your relationships will shift as well. You'll begin to notice that some people's eyes are like open windows, while others are shuttered behind layers of unspoken trauma. Some gazes you can rest in. Others will feel sharp, aggressive, or vacant. You may find that looking into someone's eyes feels like falling into a well or being scanned by a machine. Trust this information. The soul communicates through the feel of the visual field. This is what it means to be energetically literate. And then there's the mirror. You may notice it is harder to look at your own reflection for long periods, not because you dislike yourself, but because yourself is changing. The eyes in the mirror are watching you with new intelligence. Sometimes they seem to belong to someone ancient, sometimes to someone not yet born. That's not dissociation, that's expansion. You are becoming more than one identity, more than one version. Your eyes know this, and they are inviting you to see yourself through time, through space, through soul. It may help to create visual rituals. Light a candle. Gaze at it until your vision softens, until the flame begins to move not just in form, but in presence. Walk at sunset, not just to witness beauty, but to bathe your eyes in real, unsimulated light. Meditate in the dark and see what patterns emerge, not in front of you, but behind your closed lids. These are not hallucinations. They are transmissions, symbols, codes, invitations. Your vision may also fluctuate. Some days it will feel enhanced, even supernatural. Other days dull and mundane. This is normal. Integration comes in waves. Don't panic. Let your system rest. Drink water. Eat grounding foods. Avoid too much visual stimulation. Sometimes your soul turns down the brightness just so you can breathe. And when the flicker returns, when the grid appears behind your eyes, or the world bends slightly at the edge of your focus, smile. Welcome it. Say aloud, I see you. Because you are not going crazy, you are going real. Let your sight become a spiritual practice. Not just seeing, but beholding. Look at your hands as though they are ancient. Look at your food as though it carries memory. Look at strangers as though they are dreams you once had. This is not imagination. This is spiritual vision. Activated. You are not here to fix your eyes. You are here to awaken through them. The symptom you once feared is, in truth, a miracle in motion. And it's happening through the most overlooked gateway of all, your human sight. There comes a moment in every seeker's journey when the ordinary refuses to remain ordinary. The cup of tea trembles with deeper meaning. The silence between words carries weight. The flicker of light on the wall feels like a message sent from behind the curtain of form. And the eyes, the simple, taken for granted eyes, become the arena of initiation. We often search the stars, the scriptures, the sages, looking for signs that we are waking up. But what if the truest signs are embedded in the very instrument of our seeing? What if the veil isn't out there but in here, just behind the cornea, just beyond the retina, waiting to be pierced not with effort, but with stillness? You have walked now through the forest of ideas, the river of symbols, the desert of transformation. You've seen how a subtle, often dismissed eye symptom, this flickering, sensitivity, distortion of vision, is not a defect, but a divine design. You felt how the shifting lens of perception is not breaking, it's widening. You've remembered that the eye doesn't just see reality. It translates it, filters it, negotiates with it based on what the soul is ready to perceive. This symptom, this tremor in the temple of sight, is the soul's whisper saying, "You are ready to see." What comes next is not just intellectual comprehension, but transformation. And transformation begins with trust. Trust that your senses are not betraying you, they are inviting you. Trust that the veil lifting from your vision is not insanity. It is intimacy with truth. Trust that what flickers before you is not a glitch, but a doorway. The ancients were right when they said that when your eye is single, your body shall be filled with light. But they were not only referring to mystical sight, they were pointing to the integration of perception. When you stop splitting the seen and unseen, when you let both science and spirit exist in harmony, when your gaze softens from scrutiny into sacredness, that is when light returns. Not external light, but inner radiance. The kind that sees clearly but not harshly, the kind that doesn't dissect but beholds, the kind that doesn't judge but witnesses. So now, beloved traveler of the veil, I ask you, can you hold your vision as sacred? Can you bless the flicker as a signpost, not a flaw? Can you sit in the discomfort of shifting sight and say, I am ready to see differently? This is the true initiation, not some elaborate ritual, not some mountaintop epiphany, but the moment when you notice your eyes reacting to a light that no one else sees, and instead of dismissing it, you follow it inward. And this is your invitation. Tonight, before you sleep, close your eyes and place your hands gently over them, not to block the world out, but to honor the portals they are. Whisper to yourself, I see with the eyes of the soul. I welcome what is real. I release the rest. In the morning, as you open them again, let it not be automatic. Let it be ceremonial. Let it be rebirth. Greet the world as though you've never seen it before. Because you haven't. Not through these new eyes. Not through this level of clarity. Let every blink be a baptism. Let every gaze be a prayer. Let every tear be the lens cleaning itself with grace. You are not here to walk blindly through illusion. You are here to pierce it with sight, with presence, with a gaze so full of soul that even lies begin to melt under it. Let the world see itself reflected in your awakening eyes. And when others ask you what's changed, why your stare seems deeper, your presence quieter, your attention more refined, don't rush to explain, just smile. Because the truth isn't something you can teach, it's something you become. And you are becoming it now.